Hello, my dear friends. I'm back again with some more juicy stories for you today, and of course, my insights on them. Today's first story is about support parents give their children. Well, OP in this first story is judging her daughter for divorcing her financially well-off husband, and looks like decided to punish her in some way. Sometimes we need someone simply to be there, not to fix anything or to do anything in particular, but just to let us feel that we are cared for and supported. Well, OP definitely failed at that as a parent. Enjoy the stories, guys, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. My 55 female, daughter, 34 female, got divorced 7 years ago after only having been married for just over 3 years. I had given her the wedding ring that had been passed down the family line of my family when her then boyfriend, now 53 male, proposed. My late husband and I all loved my daughter and her husband as a couple, and her husband endlessly doted on her. So when my daughter said she wanted to leave because her husband hoped she'd be a stay-at-home mom to their daughter and that he'd take care of all the bills. The divorce was painful and pretty much took my daughter from living very well and having the best of everything for her daughter to being financially crippled by extreme drags in court proceedings due to her ex's international financial activity. My late husband died unhappy that his grandchild was now dealing with the whiplash of seeing how well her father lived and how penny-pinching her mother had to be. My daughter continues to have money problems because child support was less than expected. This resentment over how my daughter quickly threw away what could have been a good life for her daughter and herself caused me to lean on my son's then-girlfriend for emotional support. A friend once remarked snidely that my daughter had served her coffee once while working as a barista after her divorce. My daughter blew up at me when I was upset about that encounter, and our conversations waned. My son has now been married to my daughter-in-law for 5 years. They have 3 kids together, and my daughter-in-law and I spend a lot of time together at their house, homeschooling them, and managing all household business while my son is away. My daughter, meanwhile, has remained distant to me and was always working odd hours and preferred to let her friend babysit her child in those early years. She recently moved closer to where we all live, and we have gotten together a few times. She's lost her job and has been asking around to see if there were any openings here. One time, after coming home from lunch with my daughter-in-law remarked that she saw my daughter was still wearing the family ring. I realized that I had said multiple times because I knew my daughter-in-law was here to stay, and I wanted her to have the ring, to thank her for being a good mom and wife. I asked my daughter-in-law if she still wanted the ring, and she said of course. So the next time I met up with my daughter, I said that I would help her, but I really hoped that she would give me my ring back, because it was intended for a female family member who was married, and her ex-husband had gotten his ring back. My daughter started crying and said that this was not my ring, but hers. She also said she wanted to give it to her daughter, and that her ex-husband had his lawyers yell at her to give the ring back, threatening to make things hard for her, and asked if I was going to do so as well. Am I the a-hole for wanting the family ring to go to a woman who's become closer to me than anyone else? In my opinion, OP is a huge a-hole. She acts like her daughter was silly for throwing away her marriage. I think a lot of women would have no problem being a stay-at-home mom, but in this situation, the pressure from OP's daughter's ex to do so suggests a lack of respect and communication. These are absolutely reasons that a marriage can dissolve. OP also disparages her daughter for trying to make a living for herself, just because her job seemed beneath OP somewhat. What kind of parent does that? OP should let her keep the ring and give her the emotional support she lacks. Let's see what the community has to say about this situation. Tamika Olivia says, "Your daughter was dating someone 2 years younger than you. You seem overly concerned with her socioeconomic status and how it reflects on you. And the reason she left the marriage was because she wanted to maintain some independence and not be completely dependent on her husband. You're the a-hole. You're playing dodgy with a lot of specifics, but I can smell the a-hole here." Skippy2716 says, "Holy crap, you're the a-hole, hugely. 1. You look down on your daughter because she didn't want to become a stay-at-home mom, forced to be dependent on her husband for a good life. 2. You fault her for having financial trouble when her ex can't be bothered to pay decent child support. 3. It's apparently the end of the world that your daughter served your bee of a friend while working an honest job as a barista. 4. With all this, you are so self-absorbed that you can't figure out why your daughter would be distant with you. 5. Your focus on the support that your daughter-in-law gave you because your daughter disappointed you so badly. 6. You have the unmitigated gall to all but tell her that she's no longer family because she isn't married. Lady, you were at least 6 different kinds of an a-hole by my count. And I hope your daughter finds the strength and self-respect to turn her back on you and find a life with people that aren't so selfish and cruel. And your daughter-in-law is an a-hole for trying to get the ring. Your daughter has every right to keep it for her own daughter, though I have no idea why she would want anything that reminded her of you. Just the Bean says, you're the a-hole. You don't get to take back a gift, especially not as a punishment for getting a divorce. The fact that you were also bitterly unsupportive because she didn't want to become a kept woman is sickening. Grow up and act like the adult you are. My sister, 46 female, works as a police dispatcher on the overnight shift. Usually she is forced, that's what they call it, to do doubles, so she's been leaving for work at 5:30 p.m. and getting home between 10:30 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. She has 1 child, 8 female, and a husband at home. Her husband is a content creator, as in sits on his butt making streams of him playing video games all day, every day, for his 12 followers. He makes roughly $200 a month on tips, but my sister fully believes in him and supports it because this is what he desires to do. Commendable, but whatever. My sister is completely burnt out, like to a point of crying, constantly burnt out. Now on to my wife. She's a stay-at-home mom to our children, and she's currently pregnant. The dynamic works perfectly for us. I work, she stays home and raises our kids. We split house chores. She does hobby work that she gets paid for, but she has ADHD, so it's always changing. 1 month it's knitting blankets, the next it's making jewelry, the next it's flipping furniture. She involves our kids in it, and they get paid for it, so it's a cool system she has set up, and I think it's fantastic. But lately she stopped doing hobby work because of the pregnancy and being tired a lot. This pregnancy has been on the difficult side. Lots of swelling, a lot more fatigue than the other pregnancies, round ligament pain often, and her emotions are a bit all over the place. I've been doing all the housework for about a month now and taking the kids off her hands fully as soon as I get home from work because she is just so tired and in pain. Well, when I was at work yesterday, my sister had apparently come over and through tears begged my wife to take her daughter for a couple days so she could sleep, as apparently she had been approved for a couple days off. My wife said no. My niece has ADHD, unmedicated, and my wife is already too tired. When my sister left, she was apparently in hysterics and accusing my wife of not knowing what it feels like to be that burnt out and needing help, but having no one. My wife was very over-emotional about it when I got home, and I immediately called my sister and told her she had no right to guilt my pregnant and exhausted wife into watching her kid for her, and that it's not our fault she works the way she does. She's blocked us all off everything. Am I the a-hole? Well, I feel sorry for OP's sister, but it's not OP's wife's responsibility to handle childcare when her husband is at home. OP's sister made her own bed. I get wanting to have days off from your kids, but how much time do they normally spend together? Because it seems like she's barely ever at home. Sister and her husband need to wake up to reality. Let's see if the community agrees with me. Quinn Good says, not the a-hole. Your sister has chosen to stay married to her husband, working herself into exhaustion so he can play video games for $200 a month. Not your problem, not your wife's problem. I hope the pregnancy symptoms settle down. Moose Boo says, not the a-hole. First off, who would expect someone to take their kids for days, plural, without even calling to ask? Not so much as a hey, would this be okay before showing up on your doorstep? And your sister says she has no one, but that is because she apparently feels more comfortable asking her pregnant sister-in-law to watch her kid than asking her child's own father. She does have someone she lives with who actually is legally and morally responsible for this child, unlike your wife. Strong Warm Sweet says, not the a-hole. Your sister needs to get her husband to contribute. She isn't entitled to your wife's time. Your wife isn't her servant. I, 24 female, have a brother, Cole, 28 male. He has a wife, Pam, 31 female, and a best friend, Rick, 28 male, since kindergarten. As long as I can remember, Rick's always been around, and my family's joke that he and Cole are platonic soulmates. He's invited to every family gathering, every holiday, and sometimes just stays over without Cole there. Our family has welcomed sister-in-law into the family, plus Rick, but she's a bit socially awkward and doesn't really fit in with our family. The only person she really gets along with is our mom, and that's because she gets along with older ladies, since she's practically one. She's a vanilla wife, basically. Rick's going through chemotherapy. Cole has been by his side the entire time. I don't think that sister-in-law hated the idea, but it's hard to know what she thinks. The place where Rick gets chemo is about an hour away from Cole and sister-in-law's place. When Cole was at the hospital with Rick, he got news that sister-in-law had a minor car accident and asked me to check on her, since I live close to the ER she was taken, while he got ready to leave. I got there and sister-in-law was recovering from the small surgery and anesthesia. She only had a few staples in her scalp and a broken arm. The doctor said she was very lucky to be so unharmed. Sister-in-law saw me and waved me over. She said, "Tell your bro I want to be loved. I want a divorce," and stuff about getting a gold medal in her own life. I didn't really think a lot about it since it was obvious she was still feeling the anesthesia. I called my bro and told him that sister-in-law was fine, and it was a minor surgery and the doctor said she was lucky. He was relieved and came to the hospital an hour or so later. I thought everything was fine until Cole called me the next day after screaming his head off that sister-in-law wanted to separate, and I hadn't told him. Then my mom called and said sister-in-law's side of the family was telling our side of the family that they were separating. She bit my head off for not telling anybody what sister-in-law said. She also yelled at my brother for being with Rick instead of sister-in-law, even though she was there too. Either of them could have gone. I still think there was no point of telling them, since it was clear sister-in-law was still feeling the anesthesia. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I don't know the details, but it basically boiled down to Cole putting his family plus friends before her every time. Honestly, I'm not sure what she's talking about, since Cole has always been a thoughtful, generous guy, and she said that's why she fell in love with him. I think it's so sad that something that your partner loves you for is now why they hate you. She never even brought up these issues earlier. Cole's devastated and begged her to not leave him. Edit. The reason Cole was late was because Rick wasn't done with chemo, and another friend was going through a severe mental health thing, so my brother had to calm her down, and he couldn't do that in the car. So he was delayed getting to the hospital. It's sad, but like a triage, sister-in-law wasn't where Cole was needed the most at the time, because her injuries were pretty minor. Wow, I'm shocked OP thinks a broken arm and needing a surgery is nothing serious. First of all, in my opinion, OP's brother had to be with his wife without a doubt. OP's brother is wrong for putting everyone before his own wife. No woman would be happy in this situation. Second, OP's brother should be mad at himself, and not OP for not passing the message. It's not OP's job. Looks like OP's brother is only looking for someone to blame. Let's see what the community says. Testarossa13 says, "Not the a-hole. She wasn't feeling anesthesia. She wasn't feeling loved." Just for clarification, your brother couldn't leave his lover to be with his wife, and it wasn't some minor accident. She was lucky it wasn't worse. Your whole family sucks for how you treat her. Vanilla is better than you. The Owl Syndicate says, "Tell your bro I want to be loved, I want a divorce," and stuff about getting a gold medal in her own life. Info. Why can't you accept that your brother sucks as a spouse? And despite the fact that you dislike your sister-in-law, she does indeed deserve to come first with her husband. Enough with the excuses. His bestie's chemo and friend's mental health crisis. What next? There was a kitten in a tree? From your sister-in-law's point of view, which means more than yours when it comes to their marriage and your brother's performance as a husband. Her husband isn't worth remaining married to, since his caring nature is spent on everyone else before her. We all deserve to come first with our significant others. To be fair, not the a-hole for not saying anything. That's a mess you should stay out of, and I mean way out of. My boyfriend and I, both in our 30s, have been together for almost 2 years. Each make decent money. He makes almost twice my income, and plan to marry and have kids in a year. Less than a year into dating, I agreed to move into his house, which he owned for several years at that point. Before officially moving in, all he requested of me was to pay 40% of the monthly mortgage and utilities payment, and to take turns buying groceries. I gladly agreed and have consistently done that. I've also been paying for everyday necessities, such as toilet paper, soap, paper towels, etc. And we use my car 95% of the time, because he's pointed out that my car is more gas efficient. I always pay for gas, too. I estimate these extra monthly costs to be around $400 to $500, and never complain. Since the beginning of our relationship, he shared his home renovation plans starting with the bathrooms, which he estimates to cost at least $10,000. I like the idea because the improvements would be nice to have. Floor-to-ceiling marble, glass shower doors, new windows to add natural light. There are currently no issues with the bathrooms, but he insists we should get it done before we have kids, and would like me to contribute. I've always been upfront about my hesitation to contribute large amounts to a home I don't own because we aren't married yet and I'm not on the deed. I also don't want to be like his ex, who contributed to similar expenses, and obviously that didn't work out. I told him it would give me comfort in knowing I contribute large amounts to something I also own, and also shared my insecurity about ending up like his ex, which he thinks is ridiculous because nothing's guaranteed anyway. We could marry and divorce. He recently had other improvements made to the house, which cost over $10,000. I didn't help pay or request these things, but I have made previous comments about how these upgrades would be nice to have eventually. Lately, it seems my boyfriend has been building resentment towards me for not contributing more, because he's made comments that my monthly mortgage contribution doesn't help out a lot, and that he feels like he will always be alone in this. I told him I have no issues with contributing more once I'm on the deed. In my opinion, OP is being completely reasonable and rational. OP should not give any more towards the house in any other capacity than her share that shall be seen as rent. OP is not on the deed, so she is not responsible for home improvements at all. The little things like taking OP's car but not contributing towards gas says a lot about him. Let's see what the community thinks of the situation. Vogon Shakespeare says, "Not the a-hole. Don't pay for work on a house you have no legal claim to. Quite honestly, you need to take a step back from paying the amount you do, in my opinion. I could see covering or splitting utilities and groceries, but why are you paying any amount of money to a mortgage you're not on? And in addition to that, you're the one putting all those miles on your car. And if he doesn't contribute to gas, I'm assuming he doesn't contribute to maintenance either. And you're not even the first partner he's pulled this crap with. I don't know, bestie. The red flags are starting to pile up." Vegetable Junket 366 says, "Not the a-hole. He basically made a rental agreement with you, but expects you to contribute like you're an owner. If he feels like he'll always be alone in this, then he should formalize your partnership." Traveler 691 says, "Your boyfriend is wanting to take advantage of you. The fact that he blows off you paying 40% of his mortgage, despite him earning twice as much, is concerning. Tell him you legally are just a renter, and renters do not pay for home remodeling projects a landlord wants. Not the a-hole."